Hello friends, I'm Jonathan Pishner with Apex Counseling, and we are coming to you today with the final video in our series on suicide and suicide prevention. And today we're going to talk about resources. What are the resources that are available for a person who is in pain, who's considering suicide, that they can access to try and get some help? And the first one, if you've seen the rest of our video series, then you know I've harped on this a lot, but the absolute first one is friends and family. So a lot of times, like if you're a person who knows someone who is suicidal or is experiencing some kind of emotional pain, it's very easy to downplay our importance as friends and family, as if like a lot of people downplay their importance as if they don't matter, as if they're not as important as like helping professionals. And man, I want to put that myth to rest, because frankly, friends and family of somebody in pain are as important, if not more important, than people who've got, a piece of paper that says psychology on it. Because what friends and family do is they tether someone to like the importance of them in other people's lives. So that's always the number one resource. And if you're the person who's hurting, if you're the person who's considering suicide, I deeply encourage you to talk to the caring people in your life. You know who in your life that you can trust with that and who you can't. But man, almost everybody who is in pain has people that care about them, that wants the best for them. And so when you're in pain, it's really easy to get caught up in the idea that nobody cares about us, nobody gives a damn, no one loves us. And man, there's almost nobody for whom that's true. So, if you're the person in pain, reach out to the trustworthy friends and family. And man, if you're one of the people who's friends and family of somebody in pain, you're important. You're every bit as important, if not more important, than therapists and other helping professionals. So that's so important to know. But there's plenty of other resources too. So here's the other resources that are available to a lot of people. First one, available to anybody with a phone. There's actually, if you didn't know, a national suicide helpline. Actually, there's several of these. There's some at different state levels. I know West Virginia has a state level one. There maybe even crisis helplines on local levels. I think here in Morgantown, West Virginia, we have at least one or two local helplines. But no matter if you're watching this in America, there's a national one. It's 800-273-8255, 800-273-HELP, basically. And, you can call them, you can text them, you can get on their website and text chat with them. Wouldn't shock me if at some point they maybe had a video chat option, but there's literally a free resource if you're hurting, you're in pain, you don't know what to do, to reach out to somebody and try and get some assistance. So, and I think it's so cool that we live in a day and age where we can just have this free resource that's available to people who, maybe they're not comfortable to talk to their friends and family. Maybe they're scared to tell their therapist. They can at least talk to someone who can help reassure them and get them to some of these other resources. In addition to that, there's different ways that a person can voluntarily go into the hospital, in order to just get some space from whatever their pain is. They can get some more immediate psychiatric help. They can get some immediate access to counseling. The more developed your area is, the more likely you are to have centers like this. So I know here in our area, there are at least 2 voluntary crisis centers that people can check into. There's at least 1 or 2 voluntary psychiatric units that people can check into. So here in our area, we've got a lot of resources. The more rural you are, the less likely those are to be available. But it doesn't even cross a lot of people's minds to check themselves into an inpatient mental health facility in order to get some immediate assistance. So if you're a person in pain or you know somebody in pain, just be aware that that's a resource, and really has historically been very helpful to a lot of people, just to get them some immediate help, get them stabilized so that they can get some more long-term help through counseling, psychiatric assistance, whatever they need. So there's voluntary hospitalization, there's voluntary inpatient crisis units, and if those aren't available, a lot of places that have a hospital, you can at least go to the emergency room. That is less good and less useful than some of the psychiatric facilities, but you at least get immediate access to helping professionals. You can get immediate access to medication management if needed. So it's better than nothing. Obviously, if you're in a rural area and you don't have the more extensive mental health facilities, that's still a resource available to you. Of course, outpatient counseling or partial hospitalization counseling, where you do a more intensive outpatient program. Those are absolutely great resources. And to talk about outpatient counseling for a second, one thing that happens to people a lot is, man, they get nervous about telling their counselor that they're having suicidal thoughts. Sometimes they're nervous because they think the counselor is going to judge them. But a lot of times they get nervous because they think that we're going to wrap them up in a straitjacket and chuck them in the loony bin. And that really is not a thing that happens. So I want to invite people, if you're seeing an outpatient counselor, be upfront with them if suicidal thoughts start to occur. Because when they first start, before they have a lot of power, they're easier to address. But even if they've been around for a while, let your counselor know. Because, I can only speak for the state of West Virginia and for our local area, but I think a lot of places are the same. Yeah, we have to report sometimes if a person is having suicidal thoughts, but involuntary hospitalization is actually a very, very involved process. Like if we're going to attempt to involuntarily commit somebody to the hospital, that is an extremely rigorous process, as it should be. It should not be easy to hospitalize somebody against their will. But a lot of people fear that, like, oh, if I tell my counselor, they're going to send me to the hospital. We might refer you there and say, like, you really need to go get checked out at the crisis level. But there's not a lot of situations where involuntary hospitalization is going to be the thing. So I want to put that fear to bed too. That if you bring up suicide with your counselor, they're going to freak out and try and send you somewhere against your will. Most of them aren't going to do that. First off, they're going to kind of help assess, see where you're at, and if you're appropriate to not have to go to inpatient, then they're not going to try and make you. But also, even if a counselor is going to try and make that happen, I mean, that is a very difficult process to actually get a judge to say yes to involuntarily committing somebody. So please don't have that as a fear of okay, this is what's going to happen if I bring up suicide with my counselor. Same thing if you bring it up with friends and family. A lot of people are afraid that their friends and family are going to try and have them involuntarily committed. Number one, probably not. That is an option of last resort for almost everyone. And number two, because it is such an option of last resort, even if they attempt to, they probably can't. So I don't want people to spend their time worrying about oh man, I can't get thrown in the hospital. That's what happens least. Please be open with people that you know you can trust about your pain so they can be helpful to you. So there's a few resources that are available. Friends and family, obviously. Your outpatient counselor, if you're seeing one. And I deeply recommend that if you are having suicidal thoughts, you should already be with an outpatient counselor. If you are with one and you have not told them you're having suicidal thoughts, please tell them. The sooner they know, the sooner they can help. So there's friends and family outpatient counselor, voluntary inpatient situations, so crisis units or voluntary psychiatric facilities, ER if you got nothing else, and of course national suicide helplines. And I do want to say one thing. When I was looking up the national suicide helplines, I was looking up some other stuff, and basically typed into Google how to kill yourself, how to commit suicide. Even Google's trying to get in your way, because the first 2 pages when I typed that in was all the preventative stuff, all the helplines, all the facilities. So man, I just thought it was really cool that even Google's getting in on trying to help people, because they kind of made it difficult to find lethal means to kill yourself without having to go through a bunch of please go get help, and here's some resources, and maybe consider this alternative. So I thought that was pretty cool too. Even though they're not fully a resource, Google's still trying to like help out and prevent people from creating a permanent solution to a very temporary problem. But there's some resources for you. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. That's going to conclude our current series on suicide prevention. I hope that was helpful to somebody. And like I've said in all of them, man, if somebody watches these and it just prevents one person from hurting or killing themselves, all the time put into it was worth it. So thanks for hanging out with me today. I'm Jonathan Pishton with Apex Counseling, and I will see you next time.